This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Real Talk, whether you're watching or listening live on our live stream presented by California Closets, or maybe you're catching this later on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. We're going to have a conversation in this episode that demands more than our attention. Quite frankly, it demands our courage. And I want to give a shout out to our live chat powered by Park Power right out of the gates. We've got Real Talkers that are joining us. They've seen the title of this episode. That is What Jews and Palestinians Don't Want to Know About Each Other. It's the partial title of a book, The Wall Between. The authors we'll be speaking with today. And Dubious, one of our YouTube channel members, says it sounds like this episode is going to take on one of the oldest problems on the planet, and that is religions or religious people fighting. I also recognize other comments in here. Kathy says, I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty intense episode. Hopefully we can all listen with open ears and hearts to create some understanding. How incredible is that? I don't have to tell you that the headlines out of Gaza are devastating as Israeli forces continue their campaign. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has discussed on this show just a couple of episodes ago, declaring that Israel will occupy Gaza for the foreseeable future. The images and the stories that are surfacing from this war are shocking the world. More than 60,000 Palestinians are dead. Hundreds and hundreds of Israeli families still grieving the loss of not just family members, but also the abduction of loved ones from Hamas's horrific October 7th attack. Civilians on both sides are paying the highest price. But this war, this trauma is hardly new. It's another chapter in a generational tragedy. And so how do we even begin to talk about it? How does a show like this take this on? How do we get past the shouting, the slogans, the fear, the grief? How do we ask the hard questions in the spirit of Kathy's comment together? That's what today's guests have dared to do. Raja Khouri is a Palestinian-Canadian human rights advocate. Dr. Jeffrey Wilkinson, a Jewish-American educator and leadership coach. And together they've co-authored a book with what might be the most honest title that I've seen in a long time. That is The Wall Between, What Jews and Palestinians Don't Want to Know About Each Other. This isn't just a book. This is an act of risk. It's a bridge built in a storm. It's two people saying we can choose to listen. We can choose to see each other. And it's an honor to welcome the co-authors of this book to the program. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making time to speak with us. Raja, maybe we begin with you. The book's title, as referenced, is very powerful, The Wall Between. Considering present-day circumstances, what does that metaphor mean to you?
Well, it means that for many in both communities would rather remain in a place where the other is, in their minds, evil, bad, out there to get us, rather than a human being with equal needs and aspirations for life and future. It's it's easier to hate someone that you don't know, that you've never met, and once you've met that person, that humanizes them, and you need to start compromising where you stand, because you now know, as opposed to sort of thinking of the other in the abstract, and from a propaganda and demonizing point of view that many of the advocacy organizations put out there.
Jeffrey, same question. What does the metaphor mean to you? How was the title of the book selected and why?
Sure. Well, I mean, there is a double entendre to the meaning. There, of course, is the sometimes called the apartheid wall, or the separation barrier between the West Bank and Israel proper. We kind of played on that idea that we don't know the person on the other side of the wall. And in our conversations here in Canada and in North America in general, we haven't wanted to know the person on the other side. We are stuck in a trauma-driven cycle of looking after us and the risk of peeking over that wall to seeing the pain and story of the other is seen and read by the brain as a risk to our safety. Um, Excuse me, sorry, I would also offer, particularly in my community, in the Jewish community, there is a sense of an existential threat of recognizing Palestinian pain that would somehow question or reshape what Israel is, which many in my community see as a threat to our existence. Um, we believe that listening and learning about the other is the only way forward, that the answer is behind the wall.
How did this project come about? Like, how did the two of you meet? I would imagine that the two of you were practicing what you preach, so to speak, before you started putting pen to paper.
Sure.
Yeah, and look, it didn't take us long after sort of meeting each other to find that we come at this subject from a perspective of values that we hold dearly, that we are both similarly anchored in values of human rights, freedom, equality. And I arrived at these values through my human rights work, and Jeff, as it turned out, had arrived at them through his Judaism, and I've grown to appreciate Judaism through our work together, and started seeing the difference between the Jewish values and how the way Israel, as sort of the declared Jewish state, does not live by these values, does not protect these values, and this is how the two of us wanted to work together first to try and bring more understanding to the communities of each other here in the diaspora in North America, because having a community living next to you, a fellow Canadian community, for me, that you don't know, you distrust, you might even hate, is something that is not acceptable. And we need to return to our common humanity, which has been devastated, especially in the last 2 years, where we think of each other, you're either with the terrorists or you are with the genociders, and that's really a very bad place to be for a society and for social cohesion.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least, it feels, every single time that we'll take this on as a talk show, the comments that we'll have on our episodes, the comments we'll have on the highlights that we put out on our social media channel, quite frankly, can be discouraging as someone who attempts to facilitate conversation, to facilitate discussion. We say with this show, we've stolen it from the author Covey, to seek to understand. You get the sense that, as was alluded to here in the comments right out of the gates, there's really no room for that discussion. There's no room for seeking to understand one another. Jeffrey, Raja says that your Judaism has played a role in this, has helped inform him.
Sure.
That's obviously, I'm asking you a very personal question, but
Sure.
can you take us into that?
Sure. So the essence, we had already talked a little bit about values. The essence for me is Judaism is a long held faith tradition that is really based on the principle of living with the other, that the stranger is very often mentioned in our teachings in the Torah and the Talmud, and our duty to live peacefully with the stranger and to learn and understand them. That's the first part. We also have a practice that some of your listeners will be very familiar with, called tikkun olam, which means to repair or heal the world. I have never seen Judaism as an insular religion. The challenge of Zionism and of Israel is that it has made this topic or discussion about our survival at the expense of someone else. And that has never worked in history. The only way for Jews to be safe is for all inhabitants of the land to be safe and free. So the essence of Judaism for me is the principle of the story of Passover. that once we were slaves and now we are free. So our duty is to create, expand, and encourage freedom for everyone. Excuse me. Sorry, I want to offer to your listeners that when we keep hearing this sort of idea that there's this intractable conflict, that we can't talk to each other, that makes it easier for us to not talk to each other. Misery, grief, pain, suffering has no hierarchy. If you listen and hear people talking, the way you can establish whether they're using talking points or talking to you as a human is, are they applying the values equally? You know, if they talk about a hostage and the pain and horror that they're experiencing, do they also talk about the pain and suffering of Palestinian children in Gaza? Do they have a human test, or do they have a tribal test? It's us at the expense of them, zero-sum game. And we have created sort of an entrenchment by continuing to say that it's impossible to talk about it. It's not impossible to talk about it. We have proven that it's actually quite easy if you share values. It's quite easy.
We're talking to Dr. Jonathan Wilkinson and Raja Khouri, co-authors of The Wall Between, in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. In our live chat, Les here, Les says, he says, I remember Israel fighting for the West Bank. He says, my entire life, he says, and I'm 68 years old. Jillian says, as a kid, my mom told me they've been fighting since the time of God. Stay out of it. She says, but now with social media, we can't look away. She says, we don't want to see humans starved. Is my math correct on this? In researching for this conversation, your book was published on October 3rd, 2023. Your book came out or was published 4 days before the October 7th attacks. A wild coincidence, obviously, but how did both of you wrap your minds around what was happening?
Go ahead, Raja.
Well, Brian, on October 3rd, we had a party here, a celebration in Toronto that brought over 100 people, Jews, Zionists, Arabs, Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, of all backgrounds, came together to celebrate the publication of this book. And that was, like, as you mentioned, 4 days before October 7th. What happened after October 7 is that, that kind of gathering, that kind of celebration, they took a back seat to violent events and to a propaganda war of dehumanization. We saw Israeli cabinet ministers, calling Palestinians human animals and making all kinds of threats and of wiping them out. And the sad thing is that one thing I learned in the since is that we here in the West, we tend to value certain human lives differently from other human lives. I mean, you talked about over 60,000 Palestinians have been killed. We place equal value. We place more value on Jewish life than we do on Palestinian life. If you can imagine a single neighborhood in Tel Aviv being flattened like Gaza has been flattened, that would never happen. That would not be something that we can tolerate, but Gaza being flattened, we've remained silent for a long time on that kind of catastrophe and tragedy. And it had to reach the point of seeing people being starved intentionally that, our government decided to take action and say, okay, we are now ready to recognize a Palestinian state. I applaud the Prime Minister for doing that, but it's also kind of a little bit a little too late.
Well, let me ask you, Raja, just in follow-up, what do you believe would have been an appropriate response, and what time? from the Canadian Prime Minister. What role do you think the Canadian political leaders, societal leaders, religious leaders should be playing in all of this?
Well, I mean, it became very clear early on in this conflict that Israel was committing war crimes on a daily basis by flattening neighborhoods and killing very large numbers of people, and had no concern for human life. I mean, this is when the alarms should have gone off, and pressure put on Israel to sort of cease and desist from this kind of intentional destruction of not just human life and property, but of an entire society. We took our time to ask for a ceasefire, and then it took us a very long time to actually start putting pressure. And to this day, we've really not. I mean, why haven't we sanctioned the government of Israel with particular action like suspend the free trade agreement, and even when we withheld the export of arms to Israel, it turns out that was not really a complete ban on sending arms, as a report last week revealed. So. Again, did we really do everything we can to stop this, what apparently now everybody agrees is a genocide? We sat and watched this kind of suffering happen for months and years, and to this day it continues, and that's really the sad part. We're talking about something that isn't in the past, that still is in the present.
So, Dr. Wilkinson, as a Jewish man yourself, do you concur with what your co-author, with what Raja is saying? Do you believe that Palestinian lives have been valued differently, valued less than Israeli lives? Do you believe that Israel's been committing war crimes? Do you believe that this is a genocide?
The short answer is yes. And I want to be clear to tell the audience that many of the responses from my community come out of genuine trauma and fear. Doesn't come out of being bad people or not consciously thinking that Palestinians are worth less. It comes out of survival. It comes out of 2,000 plus years of an existential threat, in many ways culminating in the Holocaust, in which my family was a part of. It comes from a deep-seated belief that what has always happened to us will continue to happen to us. It comes from a deep trigger created by the horrors of October 7th. A feeling that the Holocaust, at least emotionally and in some ways physically, was reoccurring. So I have great empathy for my community. And so does Raja. The reason we work together in many ways is because we empathize with each other. Raja has been over and over repeatedly being able to say, I love Judaism, I love Jews, I care about Jews. I talk, to Zionists, who are the political opposite of Raja's experience. A Zionist for a Palestinian is someone who accepts their loss and destruction for our benefit. But Raja does not alienate them, sits, listens, talks, learns from. This is what compassion looks like. So yes, I believe everything that Raja said, and I understand deeply how hard it is for most in my community to really live with that.
I just want to let you both know how much I appreciate the candid nature of this conversation. I haven't even put in front of you the obvious question is, what do Jews and Palestinians not want to know about each other? That's coming up in just a second with Dr. Jonathan Wilkinson, Raja Khouri, co-authors of The Wall Between, in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. We wanted to let you know that conversations on Real Talk do not happen without the support of incredible partners. And we're thrilled today to welcome to the Real Talk family Peace Hills Insurance. You can find them at peacehillsinsurance.com. This is an Edmonton-based insurance company that serves all of Western Canada with home, auto, and business products. What kind of sets them apart, I think this is really cool, is they're owned by the Samson Cree Nation. You can learn more about their ownership, about their charity partnership programs on their website. Their mission through Watokwin, that's a Cree word representing interconnectedness of all beings, is to be a respected national insurer that provides creative and responsive solutions. A unique insurance company that truly cares. Well, how do they walk that walk? They give back to the communities they serve by working with their broker partners to fund local projects. They offer meaningful and stable employment opportunities with a really fun and unique corporate culture. I've seen it firsthand. And of course, they offer their policyholders compassionate and dedicated service. You can learn more about Peace Hills Insurance by visiting their website, peacehillsinsurance.com. A congratulatory note from us here at Real Talk to our friends at Solar by Kubi. If you're following them on Instagram at Kubi Energy, you may have seen this already. They're just getting set to hit the switch. They've just opened up BC's largest rooftop solar installation. How about this? This is wild. Wrap your mind around these numbers. More than 2,400 high-efficiency solar panels installed across an eco-park roof. This system was built to deliver clean, reliable energy and support that site's long-term sustainability goals. More than 1,700 kilowatts of installed capacity. It's expected this project's going to pay itself off in less than 5 years. Comes with a 25-year warranty, just like everything Kubi installs. You can get a free solar quote today, regardless of the size of your installation, by visiting them online at kubi.ca. That's KUBY.ca. If you're looking for custom suits or luxury casual wear, may I suggest the place I love to shop, and that's The Helm. You can check them out online at thehelmclothing.com, but if you're anywhere near the Metro Edmonton region, I especially recommend you visit their downtown 3-story retail experience. That's what Real Talker Matt did a while ago. He sent us a note. He said, I heard you talking about the 3-story retail experience. He says, I had to pop in myself to their downtown location. He said it blew his mind. And he said he basically revamped his entire wardrobe. The Helm is focused on custom suits, luxury casual wear. If you love Ralph Lauren, if you love Zegna, if you love Brunello Cucinelli, designers like that, you're going to love The Helm Clothing. You can check them out online today at thehelmclothing.com. And Park Power, doing an incredible job every single episode, powering our live chat full of passionate and insightful Real Talkers. Park Power also making it possible through exclusive promo codes for Real Talkers for you to save up to $150 off the first month of your internet, electricity, and natural gas. This is a locally owned and operated company that gives back in the communities where it works. You can check out parkpower.ca/realtalk for more on that. They're offering a new low promotional power rate of 7.28 cents per kilowatt hour. That's the lowest you're going to find in Alberta, plus Alberta's best solar loyalty program, the Solar Club. You can learn more at parkpower.ca. In our live chat, we've got Sheldon watching us on Facebook this morning. Thanks, Sheldon. He says, if you avoid looking at wrongdoing, you're just as guilty of the wrongdoing. We're talking to Dr. Jeffrey Wilkinson, Raja Khouri, both of you nodding your heads when you hear that comment from Sheldon. Raja, the book itself, you argue that this is not about finding middle ground. So what is it about?
That's a good question, Ryan. It is about humanity. It is about understanding and, integrity in exercising the values that we believe in and applying them consistently, not in the form of, what's good for me is not good for you kind of thing. I see Jews as a people deserving of self-determination and a place to call home where they can feel safe. My only problem is that it happened in my bedroom, and they're still there, and I'm not allowed to go there. And this is something I want Jews, Zionists to understand. I also want Palestinians to understand that, yes, Jews do have a claim to this land, and they have the right to self-determination, and not deny them that they have that right. Of course, they're not the only people who have a claim onto the land, which is how Israel often operates, pretending as though they are the only people who have a claim to this land.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan, I want to get your response to that.
Funny. I keep sort of going.
Please do.
It's completely okay. My name is Jeffrey, but
Oh my gosh,
Jonathan is close enough.
Oh my gosh,
And-
this is humiliating. My sincere apologies.
Don't worry. Believe me, we get called a lot worse.
No,
So
Jeffrey,
it's
my
completely-
apologies. Oh my
It's
gosh.
not-
I've
it's
probably
not a
said it
word.
10 times.
You did.
Oh
But-
my gosh,
but
I
this
owe
is-
you dinner. I'm going to
Okay.
fly out and I'm going to buy you
Okay.
dinner.
Oh, sounds fantastic. So it's really important. I'm actually going to click in, Ryan. I'm going to use a small bit at your expense. You said, Jonathan, as you said several times, this is how our brain works. This is why our conflict is so difficult here. Because we hear words, we create meaning about them, and they isolate us from hearing someone else's experience. I really want to emphasize with you that what we do, in our book and in our talks and in our work, is we take the time to listen and understand where the barriers are. So we have simplistic words we use without diagnosing, like anti-Semitism. We really help people understand how that lands for a Jew and how it lands for a Palestinian. And it is entirely different. We hear the word Zionism for Jews, it means really freedom, reclamation, hope. For Palestinians, it means destruction, loss of identity, fear, constant oppression. If we can begin to understand what the other person on the other side is feeling about the words that we're using, this example of the Palestinian state is such, a powerful sort of way to see how strongly, particularly the organized part, the vocal parts of my community, larger parts of my community have been. Even the mention of honoring a Palestinian state has been met with words like supporting terrorism, honoring terrorism, that Hamas is going to be buoyed and helped by it. And these reactions, while understandable on many levels, will not get us to where we need to go. We don't know. Raj and I can't say that this was, the perfect thing to do or the perfect timing, as we've already said. But at its core, it is a recognition that the status quo is untenable. And every single one of us, no matter our identities, our faith practice, should recognize that the current situation is untenable. And if it is untenable, then action is required. And this recognition, we believe, is a relatively small action, but it is an acknowledgement that the status quo is untenable. And I encourage all of your listeners to read, research, talk to people with different perspectives, and really learn what's the stories that are underneath the talking points, because the talking points just keep us separate.
That's so true. And Jeffrey, let me follow up with you in particular. We've got a wonderful question from Janice in our live chat, and she acknowledges. She says right out of the gate, she says, an impossible question, I know. She says, but I'd like to hear from both guests. Jeffrey, we'll start with you. What they think Israel should do differently in this situation, and how Hamas should be dealt with specifically. Jeffrey, to you first.
Wow. You have easy questions for us.
They don't mess around.
So I mean, I'm going to frame everything as Raj and I always do with our values. So the response to the horrors of October 7th, 2023 was to create more horrors. That's always the wrong response. If we take it right back to our childhoods, we don't solve violence with more violence. So what does Israel need to do? It needs to recognize and value all human life equally. It needs to see security not as just for Jews, but for everybody. It needs to be able to be responsive to the call of if it calls itself a Jewish state, to be responsive to the values of Judaism that it is not upholding. It is not upholding its claim in the 1948 Declaration of Independence to create a free and equal place for all inhabitants of the land. It needs to live up to its values. It needs to use its power not coercively, but productively, offer the benefit of everyone in the land. It is absolutely essential that the entity of Hamas no longer govern um, Gaza or the people of Gaza. I don't know. I can't say that I trust them entirely at all, but they have stated that they recognize that they will not be part of the government at the end of this conflict, the current conflict. We say and have said repeatedly that violence is not a solution, and Hamas uses violence as a solution. It is not a help. It is a great hindrance to the process. It may come, from genuine resistance and long-term suffering, but it is not the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is to develop leadership on both sides that are interested in humanity and peace and prosperity for all, not just for some.
Raja, to you, that same question from Janice. What should Israel do differently, and how should Hamas be dealt with specifically?
Well, I mean, Jeff explained quite well, what Israel should be doing differently. I'd like to put matters into a little bit of context, Ryan. This is a conflict that was started in 1917 with the British saying they're going to create a Jewish home in Palestine without really consulting with the Palestinians or finding really a way for that home to be done in a way that shares the land of Palestine between two peoples with respect and freedom for both. In 1948, 750,000 Palestinians could not, lost their homes, lost their towns and villages and properties, and became refugees in neighboring countries, and were not allowed to go back. My parents being part of that group that was not allowed to go back to Palestine. So, you need to look at the root causes of this conflict. And it started over a century ago. And the sharing of this land has not occurred so far in a peaceful way because, both sides have, ambitions that are not respectful of the other side's needs. Israel has won every war since 1948, and today occupies about 22% of historic Palestine and that's been for the last 58 years, since 1967. So you can imagine generations of Palestinians born into occupation and oppression and not seeing a future for themselves, not seeing a way to become free from someone else's stranglehold on them. So for Israel, it needs to realize that what it wants for Jews, it needs to also want for Palestinians, for there to be peace. Now, Hamas is a problem, but it is not the problem. Hamas is more of a symptom of many years of injustice in Palestine. This problem existed before there was a Hamas and will continue to exist after Hamas is gone, because at the root of it is an equitable, sharing of this land where everybody can live in freedom and dignity. And that solution has not come to the fore yet.
Well, let me ask you this then. In closing, we appreciate both of your time. Raja, right back to you. Do you believe that is still possible? Do you believe that equitable sharing of the land is possible? Do you believe a just future is possible? As people put it, do you believe that peace in the Middle East can be achieved?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But you have to want to. If you have to look at who's holding the cards for that peace, and right now, it is Israel and the United States. peace has been on the table, but there hasn't been an honest broker to make it happen. The United States is not an honest broker. It's a its support has always been behind Israel and Israel's interests. So, in those negotiations that happened, the Palestinians had very few cards. It is Israel has the military power and it is backed by the United States. End of story. So, when you offer something to the Palestinians that isn't enough to meet their minimum needs and aspirations, of course, they're not going to accept that. And remember that what you're offering them is what they used to own in the first place. I mean, all of that land was Palestine, and there were Muslims, Christians, Jews, all living side by side in peace and harmony mostly. So it happened before, it can happen again.
Jeffrey, do you share that optimism?
I have to.
Huh.
I don't have a choice. I have a choice. I'll put it this way. We have a choice here in Canada to hope. All Israelis and Palestinians who live there don't have a choice, because the alternative of hope is never-ending killing. We have a choice, and I encourage each one of us to hold that choice and to grasp it. Hope is an action. It is not a dream. It is doing something. And I want to be really, really clear, because we do this work a lot and we know where the misconceptions come in. I totally believe that Raja is right that Hamas is a symptom of a much larger problem. It is a very bad symptom. And I don't want any of your listeners to walk away thinking that somehow we think Hamas is a minor problem. Certainly, since their founding in 1988, they have caused a lot of harm. There are reasons for that harm, but they have caused a lot of harm. And we don't want a world where violence is a solution to real problems. So we want to make really sure that your audience understands that we are not saying that one side is all right and the other side is all wrong. We are saying that Israel, the US, the larger Western community has much more power to make change than the Arab world or Palestinians. And we need to embrace that power and use it responsibly. And so far, we have not done so.
Joseph in our live chat just says, what a grounding lesson from Jeffrey right now, indicating his gratitude. I knew that this was going to be a conversation that would provide great insight and great value, not just for audience, but for me personally. Selfish reasons, to be honest, as I think I seek in earnest, as I think millions and millions of people around the world are doing, to find some sense of optimism here, some view toward a way out of this conflict. And I just want to thank both of you for the heavy lifting that you've done, not just in working together and putting this book together, but also in speaking. I mean, people can, we'll link to the book in the show notes here if people want to purchase it or learn more about your speaking engagements. But the two of you have engaged people around the world in conversation over the past 2 years in an incredibly important subject. And I just want to indicate our gratitude for you joining us today. Dr. Jeffrey Wilkinson, Raja Khouri, co-authors of The Wall Between, What Jews and Palestinians Don't Want to Know About Each Other. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ryan.
You bet. And apologies again, Jeffrey. Jeez. Apologies again. He is, in fact, Johnny, as we know, he is not the elected member of Parliament for North Vancouver, former Fisheries Minister Jonathan Wilkinson. I had a bit of a mental block there. For a second. I have Jeffrey written down in about 6 different spots on my show notes to ask questions about. He just had a bit of a mental. Have you ever had in your broadcasting career, in your media career, a gut punch like that, where you've realized you've called someone the wrong name several times in a high-profile interview?
No, I've never made a mistake in my life.
Congratulations. What does that feel like? Part of me is like, we'll just pull that out of the podcast. We'll edit it out because it's quite embarrassing for the host to call the guest the wrong name. And then Jeffrey goes,
"We're going to pull it out." You call
of course
him
we're
the
not.
wrong
Of
name?
course we're not going to.
Oh, okay.
But what he does is he goes and he uses that to illustrate a point and to draw it back to the conversation we're happening. I'm so impressed with those two. Not just because of that, obviously. but because of their desire and their willingness to work together, to seek to understand one another, to put it into print. They describe, and we didn't spend too much time talking about that. There's a lot of ground we wanted to cover in the half hour we have with them, but it's like, I can imagine that there are people of Arab origins, people of the Muslim faith, whatever you have, Palestinians that perhaps don't appreciate Raja working with Jeffrey. There are probably people of the Jewish faith, Israelis, that don't love that he's working with Raja. But obviously there's great conviction in their work, and I hope that all of you took something from that. I know that I sure did. We welcome your feedback all the time to talk at RyanJespersen.com. I know that not everybody loves this kind of stuff, and it's difficult for some people. As mentioned, I don't mean to. I think that this is a very positive conversation, a positive interview. But we'll also get comments here from someone. I'm not going to use their name because I don't want to give them the glory. But someone says, "I'm sick of the one-sided crap on this channel." Like. The whole point of this interview is that we're listening to two very different perspectives, right? A person goes on to say, Johnny, they're going to report us to YouTube for sexual content to try to get us in hot water with YouTube. I guess some people are going to do whatever they feel that they have to do when a conversation doesn't fit their narrative or challenges their beliefs to the point beyond their comfort, right? You want to stop those conversations. It's not the easiest thing to talk about. Right? We could do every single episode on Alberta politics. We could do every single episode on the UCP. And I think at the end of the day, if you're cynical and if you're in the broadcasting or the podcasting business and all you care about is numbers and clicks and new subscribers and downloads and likes and shares, then you're not going to go into the tough waters. You're not going to talk about the war on Gaza. You're not going to talk about reconciliation in Canada. You're not going to talk about pride. You're not going to talk about disability awareness and inclusion and equity. But this is why this show is here. And this is why we know for a fact this audience is here, because you tell us that. You share your thoughts with us before, during, and after interviews. And it's an incredible honor, Real Talkers, to hear from you and to be able to have this platform where we gather together in community. Don't roll your eyes. I'm serious. This is how we view what we do. We gather here together and we take on the tough stuff and we have those difficult conversations. I want to get to more of your comments in the Real Talk live chat. That's powered by Park Power, of course, in just a moment. Plus, we have an update on the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. And I want to introduce everybody to Real Talker Rhett, who deserves a shout out. That coming up in just a quick second. But first, I want to make sure that the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce is on your radar. You can check out their website at edmontonchamber.com. Coming up later this month, the month of August, if you're looking to grow your network, don't miss their next Coffee with the Chamber. That's coming up August 26th on the rooftop of the Ice District Canadian Brew House. It's like 100 meters from our studio. Last month, over 300 businesses came out to connect at Commonwealth Stadium, and they're expecting another great crowd this time around. You can grab your ticket online on their website. That's edmontonchamber.com. Enjoy coffee, conversation, and connections that matter. Plus, the 56th annual Edmonton Chamber Golf Tournament coming up September 16th. I'm going to be hosting it. I'm thrilled to be doing so. It's always such an honor. It sells out every year out at the Quarry. A full day of networking, friendly competition, and of course, soaking up that September sunshine. Tickets will sell out, so make sure you jump online and book your spot today. And finally, with Edmonton's mayoral race heating up, the Chamber's going to be hosting a mayoral candidate debate later this summer. Ticket information to come on their website. Again, that's the hub where it all happens at edmontonchamber.com. North Road Investment Council, well aware that summer's the time when a lot of successful Canadians are going to be spending some time in reflection, maybe out at the lake, maybe on a road trip, maybe in the comfort of your own backyard, reflecting not just on your career to this point, but your retirement goals as well. At North Road Investment Council, they work with Canadians who have done that. They've built successful careers. Now you want to ensure that your wealth's being organized to deliver a successful retirement. The typical North Road client has at least $2 million in investable assets coming from analytical, detail-driven professions much of the time. Engineers, architects, dentists. If that sounds like you, the team at North Road is wide open to a conversation. They'd love to connect with you. You can learn more about their team led by Marshall and Carrie at northroadic.com. Start a conversation today built on clarity, discipline, and true alignment. It's Hatch Chili season at Friesen Brothers. The Hatch Chili, if right away you're thinking, oh, I can't take the heat, that's not what the Hatch Chilies are. These are Basically, they're very distinct peppers grown in the Hatch Valley of New Mexico with a really mild heat. But they're known for their smoky, buttery flavors. So that means you can incorporate them into any dish to enhance the flavor. Friesen Brothers, for a limited time, offering very special in-store made items like roasted garlic and Hatch chili sourdough, roasted garlic and Hatch chili pizza, sausages, a Hatch chili sandwich. I've tried it. It'll knock your socks off. And, of course, if you're a cheese lover, the Hatch chili Gouda. Now, these Hatch chilies available for a limited time, but you can learn more by visiting their website, friesen.com/Hatch chili season, or just pop into one of their 16 locations. Friesen Brothers is proudly Alberta grown and Alberta owned. And we want to show some love. We do every single episode to our friends at UCAN Youth Services, doing amazing work, helping young people out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. You can learn more about their programs by checking out their website, ucan.ca. If you know a young person, 12 to 17 years old, that's basically in and out of the courts, in and out of the cop cars, basically. That's the relentless outreach workers that are doing incredible work, making a difference in those young lives. If you know a young adult, 17 to 24, that has a ton of potential, just needs a door open in front of them, just needs somebody to believe in them. The Verdo Project, the Road to Work program, are transformative pre-employment programs that take young people out of harm's way, back into school, or even into the workforce. Participants earn $15 an hour for 9 weeks of programming to participate, and then ideally they're placed into a job where, well, the sky's the limit. We're really proud to work with UCAN, and I believe that when you learn even more about what they're doing, you'll be proud to partner with them too. Employers, donors, philanthropists, check out ucan.ca today. See this from Whitestream, who says, Rashid Khalidi has a great book out. Says, I encourage everybody here to read The 100 Years' War on Palestine. I've not read it, Whitestream, but I appreciate that recommendation, of course. Tommy says he's been to 2 protests, Palestinian protests. He characterized them in Edmonton. Says, both times I was surrounded, accosted, chased away. Tommy, I wonder, knowing you as a YouTube content creator, were you there pushing buttons? Were you filming people? Were you live streaming it? I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. I think in this, everybody's very sensitive about it. Like, you know, real conversation, Johnny. Every time we have an episode like this, you know, the feedback. On one hand, you get people that are saying, thank you so much for connecting these people. Thank you so much for putting these issues in front of us. Thank you so much for providing a platform for this discussion. And then you get a ton of people that just have absolutely no appetite for it. And quite frankly, it can be really disheartening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We welcome your emails to talk@ryanjespersen.com. Maybe it's a flamethrower submission. Of course, that comes up the final episode of every single week, presented proudly by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Your hot takes. And, of course, about the fieriest 5 minutes of every single week here. Again, that's talk@ryanjespersen.com. We had a very special gathering just about 12 hours ago that I wanted to make sure to tell this audience about, because I know a lot of you are invested in this. Some of you may not even realize it, but I think that you are through the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. This is a scholarship that we established basically at the inception of the show. The show is just a few months old when we lost a dear friend of the show. She was one of the founding members of our Real Talk editorial board. They're recognized at the end of every episode in our credits, but Julie played such a valuable role in ensuring that the show had accountability, editorial integrity, and the like. And Julie, unfortunately, passing away just a few years ago with a very rare and aggressive form of cancer. This scholarship, established in her name, provides annual financial support for post-secondary students in Canada who've lost a parent to cancer. And we have 5 students currently that are recipients of this scholarship. We know them by their first names. They show up to the Real Talk Golf Classic. They've shared their stories from the podium at the dinner and quite frankly brought the house down. Just remarkable young people. It's just been amazing to see the impact that they're making in the world around them already. This year, John, we had a record 51 submissions.
Oh, that's awesome.
51 applications for the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. And so our editorial board, they're the ones that choose the recipients. of the scholarship. I do it at arm's length. I don't have a vote in the process. I don't want to be accused of dishing out funds or doling out support to people that I know, and so I'm merely an onlooker as the board deliberates these incredible applications. To state the obvious, to qualify for this scholarship, it's something somebody's had to endure something tragic. Somebody's already experienced something. These are post-secondary students, so typically, as we might say, in the spring of their lives, at the very beginning of their post-secondary careers, are making their way through. People who at a young age have lost a parent to cancer, and so each one of these 51 submissions, just heart-wrenching. Many of them very encouraging. Some of these young people, you can tell by what they write in their submissions that they're already making huge impacts in their communities. And this meeting held, Julie's husband, David, graciously hosting us in his home, which was very near to Julie Rohr Park. I was able to snap a photo of it as we visited there last night, and I know that a lot of you participated in the fundraising to make this happen. This was unrelated to Real Talk. Of course, we were happy to advocate to the city of Edmonton on behalf of Julie's family to help make this happen, but this is a result of volunteers and donors who made this possible. And to be honest with you, when I saw that sign that has relatively recently gone up, and some of the landscaping around it, David took us after our meeting to walk by the sign, to spend some time there remembering Julie. Every single one of those plants that are there was planted with intent. I want to personally commend and recognize the city of Edmonton for actually requesting feedback, for soliciting feedback from Julie's family on what they thought would be meaningful vegetation. How would you infuse meaning into the landscaping? And David shared with us how the greens there, those shrubs represent the two trees that two young men, very important in Julie's life, planted at their home. The rose bushes there, these beautiful Alberta roses representing Julie's grandparents and a tradition that they had within their family. And then there was a beekeeper in Julie's life, someone who kept bees, and some of the other flowers there, I think they're honeysuckles, I'm not 100% sure, but those representing that element or that angle of her life. So there's a ton of meaning there, and I want to recommend that if this is something that connects with you, if you knew Julie personally but you've not yet had a chance to check out the sign, you can see that if you're in Edmonton, it's on 78th Avenue around 140th Street. That's Julie Rohr Park. But it was just an incredible experience. We have not yet notified the scholarship recipients, and so it would be inappropriate for me to say it here on the show, but I do feel comfortable letting you know that the editorial board, tasked with an impossible decision to select one recipient out of 51 applicants, they actually found themselves gridlocked. They found themselves unable to decide, and so because of the amazing support of Real Talkers and sponsors, volunteers that have attended and supported the Real Talk Golf Classic. That's every June out at the Ranch Golf and Country Club. We've actually made an unprecedented decision to award 3 scholarships this year.
That's awesome.
Which would not have been possible without the fundraising at that golf tournament. So every single one of you that's listening to this, that's watching this, that participates in that golf tournament, that got off your wallets. We had a lot of fun, obviously, but a lot of you made significant contributions, including our sponsors there. Our presenting sponsor of the golf tournament, National Bank Financial, and everybody else that steps up in a big way. That wouldn't be possible. And truly, Real Talkers, I really wanted to take the time to mention this because we are making a significant difference in the lives of young people, and I just wanted to indicate my gratitude for that. There's a special vibe at that tournament, at that golf tournament.
Every year.
I'm hosting golf tournaments all the time, but that one feels very different, right? It feels like, when we use the word community, it's not an accidental or a flippant invocation of that word. It's the real deal.
Of course.
We also wanted to give a shout out. Today's episode, by the way, is going to be a little bit shorter. We're coming to you live right now from the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. Our studio, of course, but today we also talk about how proud we are to work with CASA, Youth and Mental Health. They're doing amazing work and, quite frankly, very heavy lifting when it comes to providing mental health resources for young people, not just young people, but their families as well, and not just in our home province of Alberta, but beyond as well. Other provinces, mental health agencies, health organizations reach out to CASA to ask them, how are you building what you've built? How are you making such an incredible difference in the very difficult field of youth mental health? A big part of their fundraising is the CASA Golf Classic, and I'm proud to be hosting that today at Blackhawk. So this episode's going to be a little bit shorter than usual. I got to get out there, and we're going to raise some money for youth mental health. But along the lines of this show connecting with young people, I wanted to give a shout out to, quite honestly, who may be one of our youngest audience members, a young fella by the name of Rhett, who reached out to us. He had his Real Talk snapback cap, which we had not sent to him. He had purchased that through our website, so Katie had sent that to him. That was the Navy hat. I think we're almost sold out, by the way. You can check out ryanjespersen.com/merch. But Rhett had got his Real Talk snapback hat, and his aunt, Amissa, was at a golf tournament I was hosting, or I was participating in rather, earlier this year. That was the Chancellor's Cup, the University of Alberta Chancellor's Cup. A beautiful day, and so Rhett had sent his cap along with Amissa and said, "Could you just sign the brim, right? Would you mind doing that?" I said, "Of course not." So I personalized, to Rhett, sent him a little message. He writes back. He sends us back this thank you card, which is up in my office right now. Hand-drawn, handwritten, custom, creative thank you card. But as part of it, he says, "Thank you so much for signing my hat. Unfortunately, I lost it."
Oh.
And we thought, well, that absolutely cannot happen. When we've got a young fella here, Rhett, to me, I'm not sure exactly how old he is. He didn't say. He looks to me, but I don't know, between 14 and 18, would you say? Something like that? A young fella, obviously an engaged citizen, obviously very intelligent if he listens to Real Talk. But we thought, well, we can't have that. So we were sure to send Rhett a personalized Real Talk Golf Classic hat, those Real Talk socks, which are typically only available to our Patreon supporters. And Rhett sent this photo back. I sent him a little note as well, just to let him know how much I appreciated his handwritten card. But that means, I don't know what that means to you, Johnny, but that means a lot to me. We've obviously got a lot of, what do we say, adults. How do I say this without sounding super old? But our listening audience, we know that a lot of you, let's say between, the ages of 21 and 99 are listening to the show. But for me, that really filled my bucket to see a young person like Rhett, who's a regular listener to this show, participate and be repping our merch at school. I thought that was super cool. Yeah, super cool. It also made me think that maybe we should watch our mouths every once in a while. Be a little bit more careful about what we have to say. I don't know about you. But again, that just reiterates as well that you can always be in touch with the show. When we have an opportunity to engage one-on-one with audience members, it means the world to us. I guess we could probably do something different for a living, but why would we? This is the great honor of our lives. I'll at least speak for myself in saying it feels like a calling, and it means a lot that you join us, Real Talkers, every single day. Sometimes for really silly and fun conversations. If you're out on a road trip right now, make sure you check out our recent episode with Craig Baird, the historian, the epic story of the Trans-Canada Highway. That was a fun episode. That was an interesting episode. And then sometimes it's the tough conversations like today. We hope that it provided to you some insight, some clarity, maybe deepened your empathy, and gave you something to think about for the rest of the week. On our next episode of the show, that'll be coming up on Friday. That's the 8th of August. We're going to talk to the ringleader, Thomas Lukazik. He's the one behind that Forever Canada petition. They're tasked with gathering 300,000 signatures. They want to get ahead of the Alberta separatists. We're going to find out how it's going. We'll bring in a couple of his collaborators as well for what we think will be a spirited conversation about Alberta's future in Canada. We'll talk to you then.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.